I want to see me get my joy back from playing basketball. And wherever that may be.
Can you get your joy back here on the court?
Probably not.
Though the NBA's biggest storyline this year just got even bigger, as after their loss to the Indiana Pacers, an embarrassing loss, Jimmy Butler has said that he has no chance at recovering his joy for playing basketball with the Miami Heat, and he has now requested a trade from the team that he signed with back in that 2019 season. He's got to 2 NBA finals with them, and he's got a player option for next year's season. This has unfolded so quickly. There's been a back and forth between Shams and Jimmy Butler's agent. There have been teams involved in this that it would just be a 2K-like trade if they pulled off a Jimmy Butler deal, and I feel like we are going to see a Jimmy Butler trade very soon. And I will say, I don't know if I would trade for a 35-year-old Jimmy Butler who has north of a $50 million player option for next year's season in his age 36 year. He's going to be going on year number 15 during that year as well. He's averaging 17.5 points, the lowest of his career since the 2014 season. His third year in the NBA with the Chicago Bulls. He's averaging 5.5 rebounds, 4.7 assists. His efficiency has been fine this year. 55% from the field, 37% from 3, and 78% from the line. But Jimmy is getting older and older. He's not as good defensively as he once was in the past, and offensively, he's been very inconsistent for the Heat this year. There's been some games where he has gone off. He dropped 35 points in that overtime loss against the Detroit Pistons in mid-December, but pretty much since that, he has a 0-point game in 7 minutes on December 20th, a 9-point performance against the Pelicans on January 1st, and then just a 9-point performance against the Indiana Pacers last night. And then this game, in which they lost by 13 to Indiana, shout out to Khalil Ware for breaking out in that game, he has requested a trade. He was a minus 27 in that game, and I don't know if it's Jimmy realizing he's not the number one option anymore, and that's been Tyler Hero this year. I don't know if it's Jimmy just upset that Pat Riley basically told him to shut up in the offseason when he said he wanted to get extended.
And, for him to say that, I thought, is that Jimmy trolling or is that Jimmy serious? If you're not on the court playing against Boston or on the court playing against the New York Knicks, you should keep your mouth shut.
I think all this is coming together. Seems like he still loves the city of Miami, but he's just done with Pat Riley and this Miami Heat team as a whole. I'm surprised, though. I feel like Eric Spoelstra would be able to get this team together, or at least be able for Jimmy Butler to calm down a little bit. But no, it seems like he is done, and I think we're going to go back to what the teams were rumored for when Shams initially reported this about a month ago, and that were a couple Texas teams and the Dallas Mavericks, which I don't really think is possible unless they want to give up Daniel Gafford or PJ Washington, and I doubt they do that. The Houston Rockets are rumored, and I do think that would be the most logical team. The Golden State Warriors are rumored, which I don't even know if trading away Andrew Wiggins or Draymond Green, and it would be most likely Wiggins, because why would they trade Draymond? Do they get better? Is Andrew Wiggins that much worse than Jimmy Butler anymore? No, I don't think so. You can make an argument that this year, Wiggins has been better than Jimmy. Would Jimmy even fit this Golden State Warriors high-tempo offense? And they'd also have to trade in more rotational guys. Somebody like Kuminga, Buddy Hield, Kyle Anderson, Kevon Mooney. They'd have to attach more guys in this trade because Andrew Wiggins is making around $24 million. Jimmy Butler's making $48 million. So you got to get about $25 million in extra money on top of Andrew Wiggins to get this deal done. Yeah, I don't know how this trade makes Golden State any better, so I would not recommend Golden State going out and trading for Jimmy Butler. The Phoenix Suns were also rumored as well, and this would basically be some type of deal involving Bradley Beal, because you're obviously not trading Kevin Durant, you're obviously not trading Devin Booker for Jimmy Butler, so Bradley Beal would have to be included in this deal, and Bradley Beal has 3 more years, including this year, so 2 more years making big time money, over $50 million. I don't know why Miami would want to do anything like that, because they are going to have almost a clean cap sheet at the end of this year or at the end of that 2026 season. Yes, you have Bam and Hero under contract, but you're going to be off of the Jimmy Butler money eventually, Terry Rozier money, Duncan Robinson money. They're going to have a lot of flexibility, and they're going to have a couple more years opening up with draft picks that they can either trade out, or they're going to get some draft picks coming in. So I would just not advise them to trade Jimmy Butler for Bradley Beal. I'd rather Jimmy Butler just walk in the offseason. And it's interesting too, because Pat Riley has basically said that why would we care about Jimmy Butler potentially leaving? He's not going to, because teams he'd want to sign with to win a title don't have cap space. So the Miami Heat have all the leverage to orchestrate a sign and trade, because the only teams that really have cap space this upcoming season that can afford Jimmy Butler are the Brooklyn Nets and the Washington Wizards. Some other teams can create cap space as well. Maybe Brooklyn could make sense if Brooklyn gets like Cooper Flag and they're like, we could sign Jimmy Butler, we could trade for somebody else, and all right, let's go all in 2026. That is a big if, and I think that's maybe the only team that could make sense for Jimmy Butler because it's a big market. They could pay him a lot of money, and who knows, maybe they turn this around. If they trade Cam Johnson, they're going to have even more draft picks. They've already moved Schroeder. They've already moved Dorian Finney-Smith. They have Cam Thomas as well, who's a certified bucket we have seen this year. So maybe that is a team going forward, but I don't even know if Miami should take that risk. And I think if there's any offer on the table right now, they may as well do so. They're not better than Cleveland, Boston, New York. I don't even think Milwaukee in a playoff series, or Orlando. Probably not Indiana either. Maybe not even Atlanta. Like, they might not even be the second best team in their own division anymore when Orlando is healthy and the way Atlanta is playing this year. So I think it's time for Miami to just call it quits. I mean, it's a shame because they didn't win it all in 2020. Shout out to them making it that year. They didn't win it all in 2023. Extra shout out to them making it that year, beating Milwaukee, beating Boston. That was an incredible run. And I know Jimmy has done so much for the city, and outside of LeBron and Dwayne Wade, and you could say Chris Bosh, but he's probably done more for the city than Chris Bosh has because Jimmy has carried the team on his back, and we've seen playoff Jimmy time and time again for this team. So the one team I said before that could make sense, the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets are one of the best teams in the NBA this season in a tough Western Conference because their defense has been exceptional this year. They are currently the third ranked team in the West. They're 11 games above 500. And like I said, they're an incredible defensive team. What they've struggled this year is offense, and mainly clutch time offense, because Alperen Şengün has been good this year, but he's not been a number one on a title contending team. At least not yet. Jalen Green has struggled with his efficiency. Fred VanVleet has taken a step back with his consistency as well. So I think Houston could make sense because I don't think Jimmy Butler is going to have too much value. And you could trade away one of your lower tiered picks. You could trade away maybe one of your young players, even though I wouldn't even advise that. I would say you can get some salary filler and you can get maybe a protected first round pick. You can get our top 20 protected first round pick or something like that. We're not giving you any value, but hey, you want something for Jimmy? Here you go. We will give you something. Maybe you send out Fred VanVleet and that could easily get the money to work, but I don't know if Miami would want Fred VanVleet because they have Terry Rozier and maybe no need for Fred VanVleet, but hey, it's an expiring contract. He's got a team option for next year that you could definitely decline, and then you can have a little bit more flexibility going forward because that team option is around $44 million. Opt out of that, and hey, you got $44 million basically off the books. Houston could also trade away Dillon Brooks, who's making $22 million, then $21 million, then $19 million. But I think Dillon Brooks is a good defender for this team, and I think you can even leverage his money in a bigger deal down the line. Steven Adams is making $12 million. Jeff Green is making $8 million. Jock Landale's making $8 million. Jayshawn Tate's making $7 million. So you can attach a bunch of contracts to eventually get there. I would probably do Fred VanVleet and a first round pick for Jimmy Butler. If that gets it done, why not? If it doesn't work out, you were probably not bringing back Fred VanVleet anyway. It's Amen Thompson's time to start as your point guard. This can even open up more minutes for Reed Shepherd. And yeah, if Jimmy Butler leaves at the end of the year, you're not going to really give up a lot. You're giving up an expiring Fred VanVleet who's 30 years old and is having a down year, and you give up a protected first round pick. And I'm just going through every other team. I don't know who tops that offer for Jimmy Butler for somebody that is 35 years old, who's having a down year, who just requested a trade and has basically given up on his team this season. I don't really see a lot of value in Jimmy Butler in the year 2025. Yes, if this was maybe after the 2023 season, sure, I would go all in for Jimmy, but this is not the same Jimmy Butler. And with the NBA getting so much more talented, teams are younger than ever, more athletic than ever, quicker than ever. I don't really think Jimmy Butler moves the needle for most of these teams. Definitely not Golden State. If I were them, I would definitely not advise making a Jimmy Butler deal. I don't think it makes them better. But for a team like Houston, why not? You're currently one of the top teams in the Western Conference. You have the defensive talent to go all the way in the playoffs and the depth to do so. You just kind of need that clutch crunch time guy, and that could be Jimmy Butler, who has been a very clutch player in his career. He could even be a good mentor for maybe Jalen Green and that younger locker room. And I think just trading for VanVleet and one of their first round picks, they have a plethora of them, really doesn't hurt you, and I don't think would hinder a eventual maybe Devin Booker or Kevin Durant trade if they think that's still on the horizon for them going forward. So I would say Houston makes the most sense, and Miami, I would just take anything at this point. If you can get a first round pick, even if it's like top 25 protected, I would do that, because do you think you're going to get anything better in a sign and trade in the offseason? Maybe, but I think this year is kind of a wash, and I think now you're building around Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, and you figure out if Jovic, Jaquez, Kaloer, one of these guys can take a step when you trade away Jimmy Butler. So let me know what you guys think and where he should go down below. Do you think a trade's going to happen this year, or do you think Pat Riley's going to hold his ground, be a little stubborn, and not trade Jimmy? Let me know down below. Subscribe if you're not already. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.